And good evening, sports fans, and welcome to a brand new episode of Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tonight, we'll be taking our traditional broad look across the DMV sports landscape. We're going to start off with some light baseball news as the Orioles and Nationals both continue to slightly tweak their roster as we get closer and closer, by the way, to spring training, which is amazingly right around the corner. It feels like baseball season just ended. Maybe it's because I've been talking about it this whole time. Like I said, I probably wasn't going to do. We will then jump into hockey, where we'll take a look at the week that was for the Caps. Not good, not bad, pretty neutral, but hey, they've got themselves out to a very nice lead in the Eastern Conference. We're going to take a look at where they currently stand, the gap that is between them and the next closest teams, and what they need to do down the stretch, and what, if any, moves they need to make prior to the trade deadline, which is coming up in the NHL. We will then, unfortunately, have to talk about the Washington Lizards. That's right, they keep the nickname Lizards because they keep on taking L's. That losing streak is still going that we've been talking about for 4 weeks now, it feels like. And unless they keep going with the momentum they have tonight, I do not see an end in sight. We'll also jump into our college basketball, which we've not talked about for a couple weeks, but we're going to catch up with the goings-on of our major DMV schools in both men's and women's basketball, and we'll even touch on some of the non-big three of the DMV. We're going to look at who else is doing well, who else is challenging, as we are now only a month and a half away from March Madness. Very important, very critical time of year for lots of teams. We're going to see who's doing well and who some of these guys need a miracle in order to make the NCAA tournament. And we'll finish off with some light football news that I don't really want to have to talk about, but we're going to talk about it anyways. Once again, thank you for tuning in. This is Mike Patt for Let's Whine Up at DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
IE Sports Radio fans, this show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Rise and shine. It's 4 a.m. The stars are still out. The sun is beneath the horizon, but it's time to punch in and go to work. The comfort of your warm-ups turns into the grinding out of your reps as the clinking and the clanking of the plates create a symphony of euphoria. There's no other feeling like it. Earn it, burn it, and take what's yours. IE Sports Radio has proudly partnered with Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great, but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use our code IESR to get 15% off their comfortable and inspiring gym wear and help them on their amazing journey to support mental health. Go hard, take part in your iron therapy, and be strong. Because when your mental health is as strong as you are, there's no telling how far you'll go.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the iSports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop, including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
And once again, welcome into Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I hope everybody is having a fantastic Saturday evening out there. Once again, shout out to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, Vital Apparel, Seal the Deal Wax Seals, and also our newest sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Head on over to getrawnutrition.com to use promo code IESR to get 10% off today. They've got a wide variety of different supplements, proteins, muscle builders, fat burners, all different kinds of stuff for you to utilize to help you on your fitness journey. So do go check them out today. Of course, check out all of the stuff we have here at IE Sports Radio. Do be sure to follow yours truly if you have not done so at Let's Whine _IESR. You can find me on X and Instagram under that moniker. And also do be sure to check out our blog, IE Sports Radio blog, iesportsradio.com/blog or iesportsradioblog.wordpress.com. New posts up weekly. We've got a ton of sports to get into tonight, but first, I have to give a shout out to the bumping comment room, which is already going off. Chat's just going and going. Jen B's in there. Have a great show. Thank you, ma'am. Ralph Calise. By the way, Jen B, the host of our Cleveland show. Ralph Calise, the host of the Yinzer Report, our Pittsburgh show. So we got a lot of AFC North representation from football in here. Taryn Rodriguez jumping in. Good evening, sir. We also have Alden, always Arizona Sports. Alden K, good evening, sir. And some comments on certain DMV news that I will get to in a moment, folks, but you guys know what we're discussing. Also, Taryn Rodriguez, the host of our Set Point show, by the way, the best volleyball podcast on the internet, giving us a great volleyball update on George Mason's men's volleyball team, which has set a program record for consecutive home wins. And hopefully they can beat Cal State Northridge to make it 16 in a row. So we'll be crossing our fingers for that. And of course, before we get into the sports, we have to get into our beverage. Now, we finish up January. It is February 1st, so it is time for a new monthly theme. And it being February, what better theme to go ahead and roll with than Black History Month? That's right, folks. We are going to be spending the month, as you know, I only have a few shows, and brief announcement leading into that. I will actually be off next week, so there will be no Let's Wine next week, so I only have a few shows to work with. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my hair right there. We're just gonna maybe try to brush that down a little bit. Apparently I need a haircut, folks. Don't know what's going on there. But in any case, so we'll not be live next week. So we only have a few shows, but we will be spending this month highlighting Black-owned wineries and breweries, or managed. As unfortunate a statement as it is, there are not a ton of minority-owned wineries and breweries out there. It is definitely not a minority-heavy or dominant industry, and I think those of you that traditionally visit, you know, bars, breweries, wineries, things like that, I'm sure you see that in many cases. So we are here to highlight some of the, some of those that are, stage setters in the industry. And I picked one of my personal favorite wineries that I have tasted, and one that also fits the bill, in the McBride sisters and their series Black Girl Magic. Now, the McBride sisters are out of California. It is, let me get their names. I've got them right here. It is, come on. Robin and Andrea McBride. Well, it's Robin McBride and Andrea McBride John, who opened up their winery a few years ago out in California. They are both Black women, and it is a fully Black women-owned winery. They are also on a mission of sustainability and cultural awareness, accessibility, social consciousness. All of this you can find on their page at McBrideSisters.com. But they are truly pioneers in the industry, just in general, and especially amongst the Black community in this industry. So, like I said, we have their Black Girl Magic Riesling tonight, their Black Girl Magic series. They've got a series of wines. I believe they have a rosé and a couple other, a red blend that falls under this category as well. They also just have their regular McBride series line. And let's see, they've got a little write-up on the back here. Sourced from some of California's finest wine-growing regions, our Black Girl Magic Riesling shows notes of apricot, honey, and jasmine on the nose, leading to a mouth-watering, slightly sweet medley of golden apple and citrus. This is a 2021 vintage. A little sweet, a lot of fresh is how they describe that. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and give it a little tasty taste, because what would be the point of doing all of that if we did not go ahead and do our traditional test? This is 11.5% alcohol by volume, which is a little bit lower, but for Rieslings, it's actually on the high end, I would actually say. Most Rieslings are typically in the 9 to 10 range because it's a little bit of a different grape. It also depends on where you're getting the Riesling from. If you were to get it from, say, Germany, for example, 9 to 10 would be more typical, the standard. And that is because it is a difficult fermentation process. It is difficult for grapes to grow in Germany. However, this is a California Riesling, so they don't quite have that same problem. All right, so looking at it, definitely got that pale yellow color going, almost clear. Pretty typical for Rieslings. Rieslings are not traditionally dark yellow or particularly vibrant in color. That's not really their thing. Let's give it the sniff. Definitely getting some strong stone fruit, which apricot would come through on, would be that one. Also getting some green apple. Not quite getting the jasmine it noted. Maybe a hint of honey, but I'm definitely not getting jasmine on the nose. But that's okay. My nose might not be the greatest. Actually, I'm going to say it. My nose is not the greatest, but it's all about the taste. So let's give it a sip. Mm-hmm. So it eases you into the flavor. You don't get anything right on the front of the palate. It's a very easy entrance into the process. But right in the middle there, the fruit flavor really starts to come through powerfully. It's that apricot and it's that green apple that were on the nose. They hit you right in the middle of the palate with that slight little hint of honey. The finish is easy, slightly sweet, a little bit of acidity, very well balanced, very well made. Easy drinking. This has every quality you would want in a Riesling. Um, you could have this with a light meal, definitely more of a summer wine. I will say that with the flavor profile, but you could really have this any time of year with, lighter meals, heavier meals, probably not the best setup, but you could also just drink this one casually with your friends. It would be perfect for that as well. Great as a pre-dinner beverage and maybe just enough sweetness to count as a post-dinner beverage as well. So versatile, tasty, flavorful. This is a really good wine, and I would definitely recommend going to your local wine store. I'm pretty sure these are distributed throughout the country. I mean, it's a California brand, and I can get it here in North Carolina. So, Black Girl Magic Riesling, McBride Sisters, look for them in your wine store or grocery store today. You will not regret it. Before we go to our first commercial break, a couple, a little bit of some small baseball items to discuss. The Nationals, within the past week or so, maybe a smidge more than a week, signed pitcher Shinosuke Ogasawara, which I do have to read that name as I say it, or else I will completely mess it up. I have not gotten used to it like I did with the Orioles when they signed Tomoyuki Sugano. That one I was able to get right away. Shinosuke Ogasawara. That one's going to take a little bit more practice, not going to lie. But an intriguing signing, a value signing relative to the other Japanese pitchers that were available on the market, like Roki Sasaki and Sugano. Not as high a profile. Had an okay couple of seasons in the Japanese leagues. Reminds me a little bit more of, oh my gosh, who was the guy? I'm trying to remember the Japanese pitcher that the Orioles picked up in 2023 towards the end of the season. Fujinami. Fujinami was his last name. Shintaro Fujinami. There we go. Had to click in the brain here. In terms of like the profile and not the profile, in terms of the publicity and the notoriety, more of an under the radar guy. To be determined whether he lands a starting role or in the bullpen. But another piece for the Nationals as they continue to kind of tinker with their pitching staff as they have been doing for the past few weeks. Alden with a great point. Surprised he didn't go to the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers have signed all of the pitchers they need at this point. I think it would be silly for them to keep signing pitchers, but hey, you never know. And then the Orioles, I believe this was yesterday, traded for infielder Luis Vasquez from the Cubs, a glove first middle infielder type. And in a corresponding move, DFA'd Emmanuel Riviera, who was actually an interesting piece down the stretch who the Orioles picked up as a DFA. And he actually provided solid play for the team, both at third and first base and a little bit of DH throughout the end of August and through September. Not to say that he was a critical piece in the team's success, but he was used and was a useful piece because as the team was trying to configure the infield with injuries to Jorge Mateo and Jordan Westburg, he played a key role in that. And even the part where Ryan Mountcastle was out for a little while, he helped out. I was wondering if he would make the roster. I would have thought he made sense as the 12th or 13th guy as opposed to, Ramon Urias, who honestly, based on the way the team is constructed, might be struggling to find at-bats, which is interesting for a guy who they're paying $4.4 million. I would have thought they would have found some way to move Urias and maybe kept Riviera since they'd be playing similar roles and they're both right-handed bats. But I guess the team saw it differently. Thank you for your contributions, Riviera. Vasquez is a guy who I actually don't expect to make the roster out of training camp unless there are injuries. And I think his signing, it's an injury insurance signing, and it's mostly for Jorge Mateo, who recent reports are he may not be ready to go to start the season. We'll have to see how he progresses through training camp. So if Mateo's not ready, Vasquez probably makes it as the reserve shortstop and probably is just there as an emergency roster filler. But again, we'll see how this team constructs their roster. They still have a couple of excess pieces in the position players, and it makes me wonder if they're still not on the market for that big trade like they did 1 year ago today when they traded for Corbin Burns. So to be determined if the Orioles are out of it or not. We're going to take our first break. When we come back, we're going to dive into some hockey and some basketball. So do not go away. You're listening to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, New York? This is Ricky K coming at you at the NY State of Sports, a new show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Listen to me every Thursday afternoon as we bring you the latest takes on the Yankees, Mets, Jets, Giants, Knicks, Nets, Rangers, Devils, and Islanders. Plus, you get some college hoops and what's the local sports events going on in the area. It's a state that never sleeps, so why not get the opinions and sports takes that never sleep? Again, every Thursday, 2 p.m. to the NY State of Sports. We'll see you then.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the '08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies,
And your one-timers,
you wicked wristas.
and be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
And welcome back to Let's Learn About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I think it's perfect. We just heard the Neutral Zone drop with Adam Karnick and Zach Puplis, so let's talk hockey. All right, the Capitals went 1-1-1 on the week. 1 win, 1 loss, 1 overtime loss, about as even as you can make it. That moves them to 34-11-6 on the season, which is good for 74 points, which is an insane amount of points to have through 51 games of the NHL season. They have a phenomenal cushion. I just wrote good cushion, but they have a phenomenal cushion in the Eastern Conference playoffs rates. They are 6 points ahead of the Carolina Hurricanes, who are second in their division. They are 9 points ahead of the Florida Panthers, who are the leader of the Atlantic Division, so they would be their main challenger for the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They are 10 points ahead of the New Jersey Devils, who are the third-place team in their division, so even if Carolina passes them, the Caps are still in a great position to have a home playoff series to start. And they are, 15 points ahead of the Columbus Blue Jackets, who are the top wildcard team in the East. And doing some quick math, they are 17 points ahead of the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are the first team out of the wild card race. So that is their cushion. That's like 10 to 12 games worth of cushion with 30 games to go. That's a great place for this team to be. They're currently playing. Of course, we have adopted a new rule. We are going to address Saturday games that start after 7 are going to be addressed on the following week's show. So we are not going to do what we have typically done, where we follow the game kind of closely. Nope, we're just going to let it ride. The Lizards, they're still the Lizards, are also playing currently. We'll get to them in just a second. But yes, decent week overall for the Caps. Wrapped up a West Coast trip that didn't go too badly for them overall. And like I said, excellent cushion in the playoff race. Player of the week this week, I could have given a couple of different nominations. I would have done Logan Thompson again because he actually won Star of the Month, one of the Stars of the Month in the NHL, for his ridiculous January he had, not having so good a night tonight, but it happens. But I decided to go with Dylan Strom, first-line center, who had 3 goals in 3 games this week, including 2 second-period goals against the Senators on Thursday, which helped them tie the game up late. They would lose it in overtime, but I think they were down 3-1 and then 4-2, and they managed to come back, and Strom was a key part of that comeback. I think he scored the second goal and the 4th goal, so the tying goal. So great work from Dylan Strom this week. He also provided a goal in their singular win. So good to see him producing. He had gone through a pretty rough dry spell for a few weeks, but 3 goals in 3 games. Really 3 goals in 2 games. Definitely a good week for him. The Ovechkin record watch is still going. He scored 1 goal this week. He actually scored one of the goals in the in that overtime loss, he was one of the comeback goals. And by the way, I'm going to say this under my breath. I think I saw that he just scored a goal in the game tonight, but we'll capture that next week, like I said. But one goal this week, which moves him to 876 overall, 18 goals to tie, 19 to pass Ovechkin with 31 games left in the season. So cross your fingers. I'm hoping he can get there by the end of the season. Not that I don't think he's going to play next year, but depending on how the rest of the season goes, if he breaks the record and the team does well in the playoffs, he might say, you know what, guys, let's negotiate a deal. Let's wrap this up. I think I'm done. I think I'm good to move on with my life. I mean, he has been playing hockey in the NHL for 20 years now. So, I mean, I'd probably be looking to retire if I beat my body up that bad for 20 years. But, maybe he's just, I mean, we know he's built different. So there's that. Trade deadline rumors and activity. The NHL trade deadline is coming up, and there have been many moves over the last few days in the NHL. Actually, a lot of the Caps' main competitors making some moves to keep themselves competitive. The Hurricanes made a pretty big one a couple days ago, but so far the Caps have remained quiet. And it goes back to our point I think we discussed a week or two ago. It's like, I mean, could the team make a couple moves here and there? Probably, but I mean, what would they do at this point that is financially feasible that also makes them significantly better? I don't know if there's really that piece out there unless there's like a super undervalued veteran who could strengthen their third or fourth lines. But the top lines are playing great, and you're certainly not going to replace any of the guys in the top lines who aren't playing great. And even the third and fourth lines are getting pretty good. Plus, you do have reinforcements coming up the ranks, namely Ryan Leonard, who could be available by season's end, I'm reading. Not entirely sure on that situation. But, I don't know if there is a singular move that would be worth making that could significantly upgrade this team. I mean, they don't need a massive upgrade on in defensive squad. They don't need to upgrade their goaltenders, even with the rough night tonight. Thompson and Lindgren might be one of the best goaltending duos in the league. Top lines are playing well. And I mean, you don't have the room or necessarily the assets that you would want to give up to trade for like a stud. So, I don't know, maybe they sit this one out. Maybe they swap out Andrew Mangiapane for a different third, fourth line winger. Maybe, I don't know, but like I said, I just can't see a move that would be massively upgrading that's both financially feasible and doesn't require them to give up a ton of their assets. I'd rather them just keep going with the flow. I mean, the chemistry's good. Don't mess with that. The players are happy. Don't mess with that. And the team is playing great. Like, if Adam Karnick's in the chat, I haven't seen him yet, but, if any of our hockey fans are in the chat, you let me know if you think there's a move that the Caps could make, or if there's a spot that you think they're particularly weak on that I am missing. But I don't see it. I do not see it. Now, well, we've had our fun, so we should probably bring it down a notch and talk about the Washington Lizards, who went 0-3 on the week, are now 6-41 overall. 6-41. Ay. 16-game losing streak. It is their third losing streak of that length over the past 2 seasons. 2 seasons. 3 16-game losing streaks. They have, in those 3 losing streaks, lost twice as many games as they have won in the last 2 seasons. I mean, if you include last year's record, they are, let me do the quick math, what is that? 21-108 in their last 129 games in the last 2 seasons. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That is pretty bad. Nobody gets Player of the Week. No one deserves a Player of the Week. You should not be assigning a Player of the Week when your team is on a 16-game losing streak. But just for chuckles here, let's see. They are playing a good game against the Timberwolves. They are winning that game, so who knows? Maybe they'll finally sneak out a victory to end this losing streak. They do like to stop at 16 games, I've noticed that. I think, they get to the 16 mark and then they're like, okay, I think we've had enough. I think we're done with the losing streak. Gen B points out that's almost the White Sox, who had a historically bad MLB season. What was that, Jen? Was it 40 and 122 was what they finished, or were they 41 and 121? Yeah, the Wizards might be worse than that over a over a 2-season stretch, which 2 seasons in the NBA is 164 games. So that's actually a fun thought experiment. I'm glad that Jen brought this up. I think it would be fascinating to study and see over 2 seasons, will the Lizards be worse than the White Sox, who had a historically bad season in the MLB? Will they have a worse record over 2 seasons than the White Sox? We will check that in, what are we up to now? 6 and 41, 35 games. We'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be a fascinating study. Alden wants Kyle Kuzma for the Phoenix Suns. You can have him, sir. Give me a decent. I'll take. Just give me an offer. I'll probably take it because that guy has not helped the team. He's having a good night tonight, but man, I tell you, inconsistent and just talking smack in the media about the team. Man, I don't like it. Genby 41 and 121. All right, guys. So we're gonna come back at the end of the season and we're gonna compare the Wizards' last 2 seasons to that White Sox 41 and 121, and we are going to see who is worse and who is better. Genby says, I'll take a couple second round. Actually, I think we have most of Phoenix's second round picks from the Bradley Beal trade. So I honestly, I mean, I'd trade Kyle Kuzma for a can of Coke and some. Actually, no, I'd trade him for a half decent bottle of wine. Send me one of these, Alden, along with probably what, Yusuf Nurkic, just for salary cap purposes, and I will send you Kyle Kuzma. There, we have a deal in place. Your people will talk to my people. We'll get the lawyers to draw it up. We will make it work. Speaking of which, trade deadline and rumors activity. No moves yet for the Lizards. I imagine it's coming soon. I believe the NBA trade deadline is a week. Kuzma is going to be one of the big names out there. I imagine Jonas Valanciunas is going to be another one. I wonder if they'll be able to offload Malcolm Brogdon at this point. I don't think so. In fact, I don't think they'll be able to offload most of their guys really at this point. Yep. There it is. Well, first of all, I like this bottle of wine. This is a good bottle of wine. So I would not put that part. So a good bottle of wine and Nurkic for Kuzma. That's the deal. Deal. Yes. Good bottle of wine, Nurkic for Kuzma. Check. Like I said, your people will talk to my people. We'll make it work. But yes, no moves yet, but I imagine there will be some soon. And then the story, right, it's just a massive regression for the youngsters. And I think everybody's just kind of demoralized at this point, which happens when you have multiple double-digit losing streaks in one season and you're 6 and 41. But Bilal Coulibaly is not playing good. Alex Sarr is not playing good. Bub Carrington has been inconsistent. Kaishan George has been okay. He's probably been the best of the group over the past 2 weeks. But when I look at the guys who are producing in these games, it's Poole, it's Kuzma, it's Valanciunas, it's Corey Kispert, it's occasionally Justin Champagny. Richaun Holmes was a couple games ago, had an okay game. But it's just the youngsters just not holding their own. And that has been one of the problems during this losing streak. And before we go to break, I do want to address some remnant football news. And now is the time I'll break out some of the comments that were coming in earlier on this particular topic. Justin Tucker, flag on the play. Yep, definitely throw that flag for him. Gen B, of course, fan of Cleveland sports. These guys need to stay out of massage parlors. Yep. Ralph Calise agrees. So all of this is talking about the Justin Tucker situation with the Ravens. The news that broke this past week that Mr. Tucker was behaving inappropriately in massage parlors and with masseuses. The various notes that have come out are that he's actually been asked to not come back to several establishments. Several employees at establishments have requested that they no longer work with Mr. Tucker. Nothing that appears to be criminal or overtly illegal, just very uncomfortable. And I equate it to when I worked in retail and restaurants, like people being rude or inconsiderate or not listening to the rules of our establishment doesn't mean we call the cops on them and get them arrested, but it does mean that we kick them out, refuse service, and ask them not to come back anymore, things like that. And it seems like that's kind of what's in play here. I don't know, based on what I've read, I'm not saying any of it is true or not true. I'm not here to victim blame or anything like that. That is absolutely not the case. But we all saw what happened with Deshaun Watson, and Deshaun Watson is still employed with the NFL. He did serve a suspension, fair, but he's still employed with the NFL. It seems along those lines, maybe a step down. Maybe, I mean, it's not as many yet. This is still relatively new story. And it doesn't seem to be as extreme, the incidents, and that's just from what I'm reading in little snippets. But again, he is still employed. So I don't think this is a situation where, Justin Tucker gets cut and blackballed by the NFL. I don't think it's a situation where the Baltimore Ravens face mass firings and huge penalties from the league, because I don't believe the Texans did, although inconclusive on who knows what, when, where, and why. Is it cringy, as Gen B says? Absolutely. Is it inappropriate behavior and unbecoming of a professional athlete in the spotlight? Absolutely. This is probably where we land. I would not disagree with this. I do think there's also a chance that Tucker, based on his recent play, his conduct, the Ravens' history, which isn't the cleanest when it comes to player conduct, and the financial implications of the situation, I do think there's a chance that Justin Tucker does get released as a result of this. Do I think it's the end of his career? No. Do I think he gets blackballed from the NFL? No. Could a change of scenery probably benefit him? Yes. Say hello to my dog. It's over there. Do I think a suspension is in play? Yes. But is it something that is going to end his career and get him kicked out of the league and whatever? I don't think so. So I'm not going to immediately blow this out of proportion, as some on social media have, which has suggested firing half of the Ravens organization. I think that's a bit of much of a jump. But is it terrible? Yes. Am I incredibly disappointed? Yes. I'm going to leave it at that. That's the end of my statement there. We are going to take our final break. When we come back, we're going to jump into some college sports. Much more positive than the last two topics we just discussed. Do not go away. You're listening to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, everyone. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr., and I'm welcoming you to take another lap with the fastest show on IE Sports Radio. Yes, this is the Extra Mile with me and my co-hosts Christopher Lehman and Michael Ward. We talk everything racing from NASCAR to IndyCar to Formula One to limited hydroplanes, endurance racing, the NHRA, and more. So come join us for an hour of great racing talk and a lot of fun as well on the Extra Mile, Thursdays at 8 p.m. only on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson.
It's your boy Dentarius Live.
And we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That give you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
And welcome back to Let's Whine About DMV Sports here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Taryn threw a fair comment as well that we kind of discussed with how Tucker was missing kicks. He might be cooked. That's a very fair point. He ended the season on a positive note, but yeah, the middle of the year, man, that was rough. And I think even with the good ending, he still only had like a 75% kick percentage, which I think was the worst in the league. So really rough season, just a very complicated situation. Also notes the Lizards are winning on the road against the Timberwolves. We're just going to not talk about that. We're just going to let that ride. That comment didn't happen. We're not talking about it, guys. So it didn't happen. You didn't see that. We're just going to keep on rolling, keep it going. On to our next topic of conversation, which is college basketball. And there's actually some pretty positive news. So we're going to start on the women's side. And we're going to start with the best so far, which is the Maryland Terrapins, who are 17-4 overall. 7-3 in conference play. They were actually doing better the last check-in. They had somewhat of an up and down January, but they are still ranked 14th nationally, still very much in play, having a very good season, very much in play for the NCAA tournament. And if they keep going the way they do, maybe have a really good conference postseason tournament run. Maybe they can even get a really good seed. Right now, they would probably be a 4 seed, 5 seed, but with a good run, maybe they'll get like something like a 3 seed in the tournament. But very good play so far. Just keep it up. Just keep doing what you're doing. That's all they got to do there. Nothing tricky, nothing out of the ordinary there. So that's the Terps. Virginia Tech next. They are 14-7 overall. They have been 5-5 in conference play, and they basically had a 500 January. I think they went like 4-4, 5-4, something like that. It was like win, loss, win, win, loss, 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 win, loss. It was one of those Januaries, kind of up and down, much like Maryland's. Not bad, still in the contention for an NCAA tournament berth. They have to probably play a little bit better than they did in January down the stretch and have a solid conference tournament. Well, it'd probably be, I think you've got a couple different designations. I think good end to the season, probably don't need a really strong tournament performance. Medium finish to the season, decent performance, and if they start to fall off a little bit, they're going to need a really good postseason performance. So I think Virginia Tech's in that situation where they can go either way, whereas Maryland, just kind of keep doing what you're doing, you'll be good. Virginia Tech, if they keep doing what they're doing, might need a little bit more help at the end there to get a berth. And then there's University of Virginia, who is 11-11 overall, straight 500. 3-7 in conference play and currently mired in a 4-game losing streak. Now the Cavaliers need some help down the stretch. They are definitely going to need to play better. But at this stage, I don't know, once you get into that double-digit loss territory, it becomes very hairy. You probably find yourself, well, actually at this point, they probably wouldn't find themselves as in like the first 4 out, last 4 in type deals that they do with the NCAA tournaments. As we get closer, we will start to review some bracketology and see where our DMV schools are falling in place. But right now, UVA would probably be on the outside looking in and needs a strong finish and probably a good postseason tournament run in order to warrant a spot in the main tournament. None of the other women's teams are ranked or receiving votes for the rankings, so not a ton else to discuss on the women's ranks, but Maryland looking good, really great. Virginia Tech, decent, all right, we're doing all right. UVA and the rest of the DMV probably needs a little bit of help or some conference championship wins for the smaller schools in order to get into the big event. Now flipping over to the men's side, we're going to start with, tell me if this sounds familiar, University of Maryland, who's 17-5 overall. So the men's team does have one more loss than the women's team, and I imagine there might be some gloating and some heckling about that in the process, but they are 7-4 in conference, and that should be conference play there. And they are on a 4-game win streak and right on the cusp of being ranked. In fact, if you look at some of the records of the teams in the 20s, there's a very good chance that when the rankings are updated, Maryland, who got the second most votes of teams not ranked in the top 25, could get that jump into the 20s. So that would be a great achievement for them, a nice little comeback. They started the season a little rough. Well, actually, no, they started great. They started at 10-1 before conference play. They started conference play a little rough before they got on a hot streak. And kind of same place as Maryland, Maryland women's team, they keep this going, especially win streaks in a very difficult Big Ten conference. That could be enough to get them into the big NCAA tournament, the top 68, without having to have a strong run in the Big Ten championship bracket. Now, that could certainly help. It would certainly not help if they were eliminated in the first game, but I think Maryland finds themselves in a really strong position in both the men's and the women's side. Virginia Tech is next, and Virginia Tech and UVA are going to sound very similar. So VTech is 10-12 overall, 5-6 in conference play, and they've won 2 in a row after losing 3 straight. So they've got a little bit of momentum, but they're going to need to carry a lot of momentum. And like I said, once you get into that double-digit loss territory, now you're kind of in the position of you need a strong finish and you need a really good postseason tournament run, and that is the case for Virginia Tech, as well as Virginia, who's also 10-12 overall. They're 3-8 in conference play, and they're 2-2 in their last 4 after losing 5 straight. So both teams, Virginia and Virginia Tech, with a little bit of momentum as we get into the heart of conference play, but they've got a month and a half left. They actually played each other today, with Virginia Tech coming out on top 75-74. But both of these schools are going to have very strong finishes to their regular season. I'm talking, what is the regular season? 30 games, 31, 32, I can never remember. But let's say they've got like 10 games left. Both of these teams are probably going to have to go 8-2, 9-1 down that stretch, plus have really strong showings in the ACC tournament before the brackets come out, in order for them to have a realistic shot at the NCAA tournament. And I just don't know if it's feasible for both schools to be able to accomplish that simultaneously, especially in a conference that features Duke, Louisville, Clemson. Duke's a great team, but some really solid teams. Actually, in all reality, the ACC is not particularly difficult outside of Duke and maybe Louisville. So if the schedules align properly, both schools, Virginia Tech and UVA, do have a shot, if they can get a little bit of a run going, to perhaps make the 68-team tournament. Again, also with a strong postseason tournament. Now, what do I mean by a strong postseason tournament? I'm not talking about win one game. I'm talking about probably making the semifinals or the finals. Winning would be fantastic. Of course, winning gets you an automatic bid. So I could say, oh yeah, just go ahead and win your postseason tournament. That would be fine. But a strong showing would be winning probably 3 games. Both of them are likely to be and I forget exactly how the ACC does it because they do a weird staggered thing with buys and top seeds not playing right away and all this jazz. So probably winning 3 games to get to the conference semis or the conference championship. That's the type of performance. And even then, unless they're like 18-14 or 19-13, or heck, even 20-12, entering the tournament and have that run, it's still going to be tough. And if you get to that 14th loss, I don't know, something about 14th loss just feels like if you don't win your postseason tournament, you are not going to make the big dance. Although I guess it depends on how the rest of the rankings and how the rest of the NCAA looks. Other DMV schools, VCU has received votes to be ranked in the top 25, so that is a great sign for them. No other DMV school, unless you really want to reach out and lump West Virginia, pull them into the DMV, although technically they don't fit. Excuse me. A VCU would be the only other DMV school that is getting love from the voters, which is great for them, and usually a sign that they're doing pretty good. So shout out to VCU. Hopefully that if they've got some momentum, they can continue to carry that and get a postseason berth. That will do it for tonight's show. Thank you to everybody who tuned in. Thank you to Taryn, Jen B, Alden, who else was in here? And Ralph for jumping into the chat room. Thank you to everybody who listened live. Those of you who didn't get to listen live, thank you if you're listening later on the week. We do appreciate that as well. Every listen matters, every viewer matters, and we appreciate all of you. Shout out once again to our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky that's on a whole other planet. Do check them out at planetjerky.net and order yours today. Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Custom Wax Seals by Cecilia B. Do go check her out on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax seals. Vital Apparel, a brand that not only fits great but also promotes and donates to mental health research. Use code IESR to get 15% off of your purchase today and continue to assist them on their amazing journey to support mental health. And then there is our newest sponsor, Raw Nutrition Supplements. Go to getrawnutrition.com. Use promo code IESR for 10% off today. And if you have not done so already, please follow IE Sports Radio on all social media, X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at IE Sports Radio. Visit the website, iesportsradio.com, where you can find our blog, show pages, merchandise, and so much more. Follow yours truly at letswine_ISR. You can find me on X and Instagram. And also, of course, this is the time to remind you of the show's main message, which is please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. One of my favorite social media posts regarding this topic is that you can afford an Uber or a taxi before you can afford a DUI. So please drink responsibly. Do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. I will not be going anywhere after this, and if you have been drinking, neither should you. So if you're at home, please stay put. Or if you're out and about enjoying your Saturday night, maybe catching some of the sporting events that are happening, please find a safe way home. Uber, taxi, designated driver, Lyft, Amazon, ship yourself. I don't care. Just please do not drink and drive. It is simply not worth it. We will not be live next week, but we will be back in 2 weeks to continue our theme of Black History Month and to talk more DMV sports. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. This has been Mike Patt for Let's Whine About DMV Sports on the IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Have a great week. 2 weeks. We'll see you next.